Hello, hello, Triumphant TV. How are you guys doing? I hope you're having a lovely time. Well, let me say, this is one of my bucket list interviews. Since he's come into the district, I've heard amazing things about this young man, and I wanted to have a conversation with him because the people who know me, that know him, that said our hearts are kind of intertwined. So we'll get to talk about a few things before we get started. So, Dr. Strickland, can you give me an abbreviated who you are? All right.
Sure.
And I have a question for you. We'll do some other things and jump into it.
Awesome. Dr. Demario Strickland, the proud superintendent of the Mount Vernon City School District, and I will lead off with being a student-centered, outcomes-focused champion for students. I pride myself on making decisions on behalf of students and not necessarily adults, because at the end of the day, it's all about the future. It's all about what it is that students need right here, right now.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. Student centered. I'm all for it. I'm all about the student centered thing. Quick question for you before we play this other quick intro. If you could have foreseen where you are right now, is there anything you would have done differently?
Say that again.
If you could have foreseen where you are right now, is there anything you would have done differently to get upon this road to get there?
I must say no. I'm a firm believer of faith, and I believe everything happens for a reason. Originally, I didn't think that I would be in the predicament of coming back downstate. I was down here from 2006 to 2012, and I was done with New York City and the New York City area. And I'm a mama's boy, grandmama's boy, so I went back to Buffalo, and I started leading there. Went to Rochester, started leading there, and it just didn't work out. I mean, again, I told you it's all about being student-centered.
Right.
And I was in a predicament where that wasn't at the forefront.
Okay.
And little did I know, I was going to be making a haul back to Mount Vernon, which is right on top of the Bronx. So
right, exactly.
There's nothing I would change because I believe, God puts you in a place where you're supposed to be at a certain time.
Yes.
And, I appreciated how you started off with the introduction, but in my eyes, I'm just doing the work. And I feel that there's a possibility that the work has been neglected or has not been at the forefront of the district. So, I haven't done nothing yet. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Right.
Great things are soon to come, really.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. All right, team, you know how we start these things off. Welcome to Triumphant TV, the space where we do the inner work out loud. This is not motivational fluff. This is purpose. This is real life. This is faith. This is discipline. This is healing. So if you've been walking around functioning in your reality that you think you're not good enough, I always have an episode for you, and this just might be the one. So wherever you are right now, take a second, breathe, relax, unclench your shoulders, lock in. Subscribe, like, and share. So let's get into it. Yeah, so we're back. Um, this is a great interview I'm about to have. I just know it. I can feel it because I felt the energy. You know, he just got through. He just got through presenting to his staff, to his team, what he wants to happen. So I know he's kind of got that energy still in him. You know, still ready to go. So first question for you. I like to go through childhood to where we are now,
Sure.
and how the questions develop into a casual conversation is what I'm trying to have. So
Absolutely.
however it goes, okay?
Yes.
So let's start this way. Before you became who you are right now, right? What was your childhood like?
My childhood, for the most part, I would say I was in a loving, caring environment. I generally, I say I went to 3 proms. I
Okay.
went to my junior prom, my senior prom, and my mom's prom. And so the first years of my life, I had the pleasure of growing up in my grandmother and grandfather's house with my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
So I'm kind of viewed as at times the little brother, if you will. And then, my mom was able to get on her feet. We would, move to various places, jump houses to houses. I had to change schools a lot, believe it or
Right.
not. I must say that, one of the reasons why I'm able to be here is because I had great teachers at all of those different schools that believed in me. I also had a strong foundation where, you need to do well in school in order to, in order to succeed. Um, and I just stayed focused, stayed in the books. Again, I was always in the enrichment classes in terms of reading. I still love reading. And yeah, I mean, I just would say, I actually went to my dad's house in the summer.
Okay.
He worked for a not for profit organization. So he would teach me that we had to work, which I didn't like because I felt like I was not a normal kid sometimes,
Right.
working, helping to serve the homeless. But it also taught me that, service in the world is very important. And I believe that because that was instilled at such a very young age, this is why I am doing what I'm doing now. And this has helped me to become what I am.
Amazing. So this kind of sparks a different question than my number two question I had. So how does this help you? Resilience, struggle, survival. How does it help you get to where you are? Like what? How did that shape you? Like you said you and your moms went from house to house. You was raised by your grandparents. So you went to different schools. So that in itself is a lot of transition, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm already hearing a remarkable story just from hearing that part of the foundation. So if you can kind of walk us through what that's like, that would be great for me.
Well, no, I want to be clear. I was raised by my mom as well. Like it was a whole bunch of people that have raised me, is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it was in my grandmother's house. So you know how
Yeah.
it is in grandma's house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say that I had to become resilient. I remember, sitting in a house. It wasn't the cleanest. And, we had rats. And I remember sitting on a crate doing my homework, and a rat was looking at me.
Wow.
I was doing my homework, and I screamed. I just can't take rodents. But those were those images that are in my head that remind me of why I needed to do great things so I was not living in situations like that.
Okay.
And we're not talking about mice. We're talking
Right.
about rats.
No, I get it. I get it. It's a
Yeah.
big, there's a big difference.
Big difference, literally. And like I said, I believe because I've had quality teachers that really cared about who I was as a student and they cared about my well-being, that helped propel me to greatness. There's research out there that says if you have two good teachers,
Wow.
2 years in a row, you are set up significantly more for success in terms of graduation and success in your future than someone who has not had that. 2 years.
Wow.
I am fortunate to say I can't remember having a bad teacher.
That's
I
awesome.
can't remember. And that also gave me the bug, that I kind of wanted to be a teacher. I used to round up all the kids in the neighborhood. We all kind of lived similarly, and our parents would hang out. But I would get my cousins, and we would play school on the porch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was taking all the papers that the teachers made. They made too many copies, or they had too many workbooks, and I took those home and I used that for school.
Nice.
And had a chalkboard, and I used to love wiping down the chalkboard. I loved it. And I used to grade those papers, give them back to my cousins. It was way above grade level, and I used to give them honor roll and merit roll certificates.
Nice.
To hang up the good quality papers on the railings, and I just remember those days so vividly. But that sort of shaped me for who I am.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the conversation's flowing the way I need it to, because my next question is exactly, when did you know you wanted to become an educator? Like, how did that spark happen? And how old were you when you were doing this? Like, that's remarkable.
I would say about 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I was 5, and my cousins were fast learners. I mean, again, yeah, we were just fast learners as a whole. Like I told you, I was growing up under adults, having
Right.
adult conversations. So that actually at times accelerates,
Right.
what you are and able to do at an early age. And 5-year-old, like I felt that I was always being a teacher. I was always being that leader figure. It did sort of shifted around middle school, where I thought I was going to become a surgeon. And I don't know what happened. I think in college, because, I was going to be a surgeon from middle school all the way to sophomore year. And then I think I was in the woods at a park in Cheektowaga, New York, which is right outside of Buffalo.
Okay.
And I had saw a turkey fly, and I didn't know they can fly.
Right.
And from that moment on, I was like not interested in that type of science. And I was like, why do I have to take this
Right.
to become a surgeon? And then I just was reminded from probably a dream, because I do believe in dreams,
Okay.
that you're going to be a teacher. And
Wow.
then I started taking my education courses.
Right. Nice.
And I actually still have a science background. I am certificated in biology.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But I have I can't practice surgery.
So if we ever live in a dystopian environment and we need surgery, we can come talk to you.
Absolutely. No.
Okay. Cool. So let's back up a little bit, right? When you talked about, because I've never heard that before, and I'm going to definitely go look it up, about having 2 successful teachers, 2 good teachers in a row.
Absolutely.
Maps you to a better length of success. So I want to frame this correctly. What would you say? I'm not just talking about the school district. I'm talking about the overall education system. What's missing, or what have you seen that might be missing, that some kids are not getting those two teachers in a row? And before you do that, I just want to give you an
No,
example. When
absolutely.
I used to work for Coca-Cola. I
Hmm.
ran their service department for a lot of years, and we were out doing when Subways really took off. We was doing a contract with Subways. We're putting coolers in Subways. So it was Subways in Queens. Teachers are there, and they were talking about a little boy. And I kind of talked about this a couple of episodes ago with another friend. And they were talking about how bad he was, right? And I was like, he's a child, right? Why can't you reach a child? So that the reason why I'm saying this, because saying the two teachers in a row sparks my thought back to that, to say, if a teacher invested in him, right, it might have made a switch. So on the other side of that, my friend Aisha that I interviewed, who's an amazing teacher, she principal, she did all these things. She has her own company where she goes to teach the teacher and stuff like that.
Yes.
She was able to identify in a young boy, she talks about in our interview, that was failing the test, but when she verbalized what was on the test to him, the kid would get 100. Realized there was a gap, and she was able to turn that gap around, so this kid could now start to begin to excel. So when you said two teachers, I was like, wow, she was one of those two teachers, because she took the time to invest in this kid.
Absolutely.
So how do we get, on a broader scale, all teachers to understand that type of impact? If I can just be the educator for this year, and then go talk to the educator he has for next year and go, hey, great kid, blah, 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 blah. If you need any help, talk to me. I know this, what I'm saying is crazy, because you got 30 and 40 kids in the classroom. You got your own kids in the classroom. But how do we streamline that? Because that sounds like so majorly important.
So I first off want to say, and I agreed with you 1,000%. There's no such thing as bad children. There is a such thing as children having difficult moments,
Right.
And some just have more than others. Generally, what I would say, there's a few things that are missing. At times, it's the number one piece, which is the relationship.
Right.
We have a duty and an obligation, and notice I said we, because I
Yeah.
always thought that I was just going to be a teacher. Okay, I didn't think that superintendency was in my cards.
Okay.
I'm a teacher at heart.
Right.
We have a duty and obligation to establish relationships with students and their families. And sometimes people don't really want to do it, or don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Or there's I want to say a color divide. My dissertation is on recruitment of Black male teachers.
Okay.
And I wanted to know about their challenges. Their challenges where they feel ostracized when they got into the field. So if you have a whole bunch of, let's say, Black and brown students being taught by non-Black and brown teachers that might not be able to relate, because I want to be very clear, I have had some fantastic teachers that were white.
Right.
But some of them couldn't relate to us on the outside and understand the trials and tribulations that we went through.
Right.
Then you're already at a disadvantage. So if teachers really take the time, and I want to say our Mount Vernon teachers definitely do.
Okay.
Take the time to develop relationships with the students and families, you get there. Two would be around expectations. Too often, we see that our students are coming to us below grade level. So the natural thing to do is for us to teach them at their grade level.
Right.
What you actually should do is teach them at the grade level they should be at.
Gotcha.
And bring them up, or scaffold back,
Right.
make modifications so that they are able to access the content of that grade level. And then what happens is the gap starts to shrink.
Okay.
Ken Williams, excuse me, he spoke at the National SAMS Innovation Conference, and he said something that was extremely profound to me. People will walk around and say, you have to meet them where they are. But if a student is way behind, they don't want you to meet them where they are. They want to be where you are.
Right.
You have to bring them up.
Right.
So they bring them to where you are,
right.
And then all of a sudden they start seeing that level of success.
Okay.
We're not doing enough of that. We're really focused on intervention, and we're not focused on grade level instruction.
Okay.
We have to focus on instruction at the grade level and stop remediating all the time, everything. There's a time and a place for remediation.
Right.
We must focus on grade level instruction, and we don't do that enough.
Okay. I appreciate that. I really like that. That's important. I really like that. Here's where my heart is, right? We've talked about the teachers, having 2 successful teachers, how that's profoundly impacted you. And I thought about this question this morning while I was shaving. How do we get parents who do not have the educational level, right, to teach their children whatever they're learning in schools, right? Because maybe the remedial work should be done at home, right? So that the teacher is not pushing too hard to try to get this kid to a place, right? Because I always believe if you go out to a restaurant and your kid is a mess in a restaurant, that means you never sat down at home and said, here's where the knife and forks go. Here's how we be still. You know, you never got that training. So now you got the kid in a restaurant doing what he does at home, running around, throwing food, yelling, screaming, and all of that. So if there's no education from home to say, hey, this is what learning looks like. This is what the books of access you have. How do I sit down and do your homework with you? When are you tracking what I'm trying to say right now?
I am. I think, to make a long story short, well, first I would say parents give us their most precious gifts each and every day. Flaws and all, it doesn't even matter. I talk about the quality teachers. Those are the areas that they pick up on, which they generally do so well, where they fill in the gaps.
Okay.
I didn't learn how to eat at a formal restaurant until I went to etiquette class in college.
Wow.
I didn't know that you need that you have to do the bread is on the left side and the drink is on the right side.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't know those tips. I didn't know that the first fork is for your salad.
Right.
I didn't know those things, but I had teachers or professors that actually said, what we are going to do is we are going to teach you how to be a leader in this society. You're going to be going on important dinners, and you're going to need to know how to do that. And guess what? These were my English professors.
Nice.
These were my English professors that knew that we were coming from environments where we might not know this. And guess what? Most of us didn't. And the ones that did, they helped and assisted in teaching that content. Now, as a former principal, I was starting to make a huge shift in my school. I was done with parent-teacher conference. Parent conference, all we do is sit up there and tell them all the things that their kid can't do. We tell them how bad their kid was, and that's parent leaves, nothing changes. Next marking period, same thing happens. I had bought into an organization called WestEd, and they were doing academic parent-teacher teams. They said, let's change how we do parent-teacher conferences. What my teachers were doing, they were going to plan as a grade level team where they made a small kit of materials that they were doing at that grade level. And when they brought parents in, they taught parents how to use the items in the kit. And the parents learned those strategies and were able to take those strategies to the home and help reinforce what was happening in schools.
Nice.
That was shifting the trajectory. That was doing something unique because sometimes parents don't have the answers. And the
Right.
reality is, we do have the answers.
Right.
But we need to make sure parents are going to be partners. Can't come up to the schools all rah rah. Can't always believe your child is always right
Right. Right.
because that hinders the relationships. Remember, I'm going back again, the relationships
Yep. Yep.
between home and school. And we can't have that.
No, not at all. And I'm 100% behind you there because I remember when my kids were in school, I heard about a young woman who came in yelling and screaming at the teacher in front of the student.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I said, I wish I could talk to her because what do you expect him to learn now?
That part.
You've taken the authority away from the teacher.
Absolutely.
And you put him in a very precarious situation because now he can come to school and act any way he wants to and not achieve what the teachers ask him to achieve because he knows my mommy will come and straighten you out if you don't adhere to her rules. Right.
Correct.
So we lose that way. And to reinforce what I said, one of my sons was getting bullied when he was younger. And my wife at the time was like, no, I want him to be smart, da 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 da. And he's karate school. I wanted him to defend himself like he was taught. So I've had millions of conversations with the assistant principal of discipline, and I'll talk to the parents. I'll do this. So one night I was picking him up after school, and he came in the car, backpack disheveled, glasses disheveled, it's snowing. So I think he's running to the car, and he fell. I'm laughing. Hey, you fell? No, blah 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 blah. They jumped me around the corner.
Wow.
Pulled into the parking lot. Had my two daughters and him. Went into the school to the principal's office. Had them sit in the room with me at first and said, "Hey, explain what happened." He explained what happened. I told him, I said, "Okay, now you get out. Go sit all the way on the far end." I closed the door. Sir, you are to call me no more about Darius, because from today on, he's doing it Daddy's way. If a student puts his hands on him, he's going to put his hands back on him because Darius knows how to defend himself. But don't call me unless you have a parent in your office so we all can have a conversation about why their child continues to act the way they're acting. Darius never had a problem after that. Because I'm saying that because we have to be advocates for our children. And not only for our children, we have to be advocates for the community. Like, I should know, not intimately, but well enough know the people who interact in my school district, the people who are in my class with my kids. So yes. I don't have to come to your house, but I should know who you are.
Absolutely.
Right? Because hopefully our kids are becoming friends. Our kids are becoming associates to each other. So if we need to talk about something, we can have an honest and open conversation without being awkward when we meet under diverse situations and conditions.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna back up a little bit. I really hope that you can implement something that does that. Give the kids the information, to give the parents the information, because I think sometimes parents that are listening, and if you're on this level, please stop being ashamed of where you are.
Of course.
Please stop doing that, because you can elevate yourself, and it's not a bad thing to ask for help, right? I believe one of the reasons why our kids are failing is because we're not unified with our teachers, and we're afraid to ask for help.
I agree 1,000%. You couldn't say it no better.
Right. So is this something we can look forward to in the school system in going down the road? Is it something you think we can implement?
Oh, absolutely. I've already begun to mention that to the principals that I serve, saying we got to change it up. You know what I mean? No more standard parent-teacher conference, especially when you're talking about individuals that they may not have access to what it is that the students necessarily need need to know and be able to do.
Right.
So, I'm going to encourage my principals and school leaders as a whole to really start trying to be innovative with ways to get true parent involvement.
Right.
Um, One of the things that also I'm very conscious of, I used to get angry when people would talk about parents dropping their kids off with their bonnets and their moo-moos and things of that nature. And I said, but they brought their kid.
Right. Right.
Because often judgment was passed and then that energy transferred over to the kid.
Yep.
And you can't, or they became coddled. I know you don't have this at home. I know you. And then when you coddle, your expectations are low.
Yep.
And then it becomes a cycle where now you're falling behind.
Right.
You're not being held to a high standard because your mom wears a bonnet when she comes and drops you off.
Right.
So we have to be careful about all of the assumptions that we also make about families and how they show up.
Yep.
The main thing is that mom dropped her precious baby off to us for us to educate.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't know. She could be an entrepreneur. She could be a CEO of a company, and that she's just trying to get her hair right. Like, all of the things that happen in our community. She could be a writer. She could be a myriad of things.
She can be an actress that's about to go on set for a scene of her waking up. You just don't know. But the point is, our assumptions often characterize how we start treating people or how we characterize others.
Right. Right. Yeah. And wow, this is powerful, because how do you make a shift though? How do you make a shift in somebody that comes outside of the community to teach, right? And they've got all of these preconceived notions of, John's pants is hanging off his butt. He speaks Ebonics. How do we get past the jewel that he is and how much you could teach him, right? How do we get past that in the mental space of teachers?
I told you I'm a big reader. Gloria Ladson-Billings wrote a book, Other People's Children, and I love that book. Because I was one of those educators where the kids would, use their Ebonics, and I understood. So
right,
I was.
Of course.
And what she would say is, you have to give the students the access to the culture of power,
right?
The language of power. So when a student would say, "I got to do," or whatever,
right,
I would say, "Oh, okay, I got you. Now say that in a proper way. Now, how would you write that so that you can get a great score on an exam?"
Nice.
I have to.
Right.
Well, I would model it.
Right.
Because there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
I also taught, I was an assistant principal at a bilingual school, and too often I would hear teachers, "Stop speaking Spanish in here."
Wow.
Excuse me? No, how about you learn Spanish?
Right. But
I would teach them strategies, because I know how people get when people of other languages get around them. They all of a sudden, "Oh, what they talking about me," and all that. And I said, that's not always the case.
Right.
I said, when when you're speaking to someone or friendly, you're speaking to them friendly. However, when you're trying to teach a student that is an English language learner, you would say, "Okay, now say that in English," because you're not discounting where they're coming from.
Right.
We often do that. We discount where they're coming from. But you just have to be real to get back to your original question and call out the microaggressions.
Okay.
You got to call out the micro insults, call out the micro assaults,
right,
and You just have to call them out, because sometimes we do them without provocation.
Yeah.
We do it because that's just how we feel.
Yeah.
We do it because of our own ignorance.
Yep.
I don't lead when I see a young man with their pants down. I don't lead with pick up your pants. I lead with how you doing, young man?
Right.
How was your day today? Do me a favor, pull them pants up. You know better.
Yeah.
And then guess what? I tell you, 9.9 out of 10, they
Come on.
do exactly what I say.
Exactly.
Next time they see me, they're gonna do it before I get there,
Right.
before I have to say something, and then I'm gonna start off the same way, young man. How you doing today? They say, I'm good, Dr. Strickland, and then I say, now, don't just pull your pants up when you see me. Keep them up.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
That's the teaching process.
That's right.
Kids come to you with disciplinary issues, and then we I don't want to say reward discipline with punishment, but our jobs are to be teachers.
Yes.
So when a kid does something wrong, our responsibility is to teach them how to do it right. But we rely on punitive.
Okay.
We don't do the teaching. Our job is to be the teacher.
Right.
And that goes for the home too. You know what I mean? My dad and I go back and forth over this. He said, parents need to bring their kids ready to go to school. I said, what if some of those kids act very proper and polite in front of their homes or in their homes,
Right.
and then they get to school acting a fool?
Right. Do a whole different thing.
I told you my trajectory, but then when I got to high school, I was Mr. Funny Man.
Okay.
You couldn't tell me nothing. I was making jokes. You could have thought I ain't had nobody in my house sometimes. So, but then you have those teachers that say, Demario, you can be funny and respectful at the same time.
Right. Right.
So you can be funny and smart. They were teaching me or telling me something that I needed to hear, because generally those teachers saw greatness.
Good. That's awesome. Listen, so much is going through my head at one time, so forgive me.
All right, I know that's how it is.
So let's do this. When did you realize that teaching wasn't enough and you needed to be a leader in this space?
So the first 2 years of my teaching, I taught all boys in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, grade 5. And, I set up the classroom all nice. I was making $680 a month, by the way.
Wow.
I lived in an old convent, and guess what? Them daggone rodents was there again. This time mice, at least. So, just had to keep it clean. But anyhow, I would commute from Spanish Harlem to Crown Heights, Brooklyn every single day. And, I had a very nice decorated classroom for my young men. And I remember at Christmas time, I got a card from my principal that said, you've brought calm in what used to be a storm.
Wow.
And she was talking about that class.
Okay.
I didn't know what she meant. And then her mom, who was an educator, her mom was fantastic as well, would use me as an example and use my strategies as an example to help with students learning.
Nice.
And that happened because I was actually a certified teacher in a private school, and all the teachers did not have to be certified.
Okay. So
I quickly became like a coach in a sense.
Right.
My first year, I was only 21. I started teaching at 21, and it just kind of grew from there. And then all of a sudden, I was just doing like admissions, helping try to recruit for the school. But that $680 I couldn't sustain, so I had to go look for something else.
Right.
Because
Right.
$100 for a Metro Pass right there was,
Yeah.
I was broke already. And I was on the founding team of St. Hope Leadership Academy, founded by Kevin Johnson in Sacramento, California. But um, the the people of Harlem saw a show that he was on. He was on the Oprah Winfrey Show,
Okay.
and they wanted to bring that model to Harlem. And I applied. I didn't not knowing the history, and I accepted the position, and I was teaching there for 3 years, and I had an impact there as well.
Nice.
Um, so much that in my final year, I was asked to be dean of students.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I didn't necessarily say I wanted to be a dean of students. I was asked to be a dean of students. And I was, at that time, I was finishing up at Fordham University at Lincoln Center, and I needed an internship, so it was a perfect internship for me.
Right.
When I was a dean, I wasn't just of discipline. I remember I would go back to teaching students to do the right thing.
Okay.
Because too many times we're reactive instead of proactive. Starting with the expectations, and that's how my approach was. Very no nonsense. Still, don't play with me. I was telling the kids, don't play with me. I'm not going to play, but very no nonsense. And I would support the teachers with strategies on how to get the kids engaged so that they didn't act up.
Right.
Because a lot of times, I would say half the time, possibly, it is the home experiences. The other half could be the level of engagement.
Right.
You all have that rough school in your district where, even in a rough school, there's that one class you better not be late to.
Right.
There's something about that.
Right.
And so that, like, at that point, I was the dean. I was heavy in teaching and learning. I have a master's in curriculum and instruction.
Okay.
And I was like, I want to go home to Buffalo, but I gotta apply for principal. That's what I did. I applied for principal. I went in for that interview, and I know I killed it. But it was going into a larger system where they're like, I know they were impressed.
Right.
They were like, he probably need to be an AP first.
Okay.
I respected it. So I went back to my old stomping grounds, McDonald's, where I was a leader, one of my favorite jobs ever. And I just was interviewing for assistant principal jobs. And finally, I got the call for an assistant principalship. And then naturally, positions just started finding me. So I was at that school making a lot of headway. They had took out the principal, took out the other AP. I had a acting AP in there. They kept putting principal. We were recycling principals like anybody's business. But I was the only one that was stagnant.
Okay.
I was the constant.
Okay.
And finally, we had a leader where I was like, okay, the school is going to be in good hands. And at the same time, I got an email from a coach, an instructional coach, which is a teacher of a school that was in receivership, that was in pretty bad shape. And she had met me when I was in Albany and said, I had a great conversation with you in Albany, and I think you would be the perfect person for this principal position. And this is one of those teachers that have influence. Like, she's now an administrator, and I'm proud of her. She said she would never be an admin. I say yes, she would. And I applied for principal, and little by little, that school turned around. And then the pandemic happened.
Right.
And then people were in my inbox talking about, hey, we got this position over here in Rochester. Think about it. It's you managing a whole bunch of principals. I applied and I got it.
Okay.
Doing my thing there. sitting there minding my business. All of a sudden, superintendent was removed. My old colleague became the superintendent. We were school chiefs together.
Okay.
I'm doing the work. He knocks on my door. And I'm like, oh, snaps, what I done did. Because, you know, sometimes I'm like, I have to pop people up. And I'm like, dang, I'm by the new soup. And it was a Friday. And he said, I would like you to be the deputy. And the deputy of teaching and learning. And teaching and learning is my jam. Okay. And it was very difficult for me because my friend was the current one.
Right.
But it wasn't working out. And I had very little time to really make a decision. But I had said in my brain, because I couldn't talk, if there's anyone that she would want to have the position, it would be me.
Okay.
And I would be the one that would not destroy the things that she's built.
She's already built, right?
And then all of a sudden I became the deputy.
Okay.
And then at the end of the year, all of a sudden, what happened was my superintendent came to us, pulled 3 people out of an office and said, I'm leaving. And I was like, wow. I was like, what? I mean, when I tell you my stomach dropped, because that in that system in Rochester, when the superintendent leaves, they take out the 2 deputies.
Wow.
And the Board of Education was talking about bringing someone from the outside in, and a spirit in my brain came to me, and you know where that spirit came from.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be you. And I'm like, oh my God. I would talk to the board clerk. I'm like, can y'all hurry up and hire somebody so I can stop being nervous?
Right.
And I can get my job done, because the board had made a commitment that they were going with an external person.
Okay.
Who could not remove any of us. So I was at ease again.
Right, right.
One after another, they all fell through. And then one day I was at Wegmans, ready to go home. And I get a text message from the board clerk saying, hey, can you jump on a Zoom? I said, no.
No, thank you very much.
Demario, Dr. Strickland, no, Demario, jump on this Zoom. And that's when they asked me to be superintendent.
Okay.
And I said yes. I would be honored, and I was in the interim role. And what I could say I brought to that district was a positive energy, letting you know teaching and learning was at the forefront, and the care for the families and the children that were in front of us that we get to serve.
Right.
I never thought I was going to be a superintendent in a span of like 3 years.
Wow.
But that job, which I will never regret, told me you are in the right position at this time, which is why I made the decision on, applying for the permanent job.
Right.
I was not successful, and I'm fine with it. But Mount Vernon was in my email saying, you have a screening for Mount Vernon. I said, I didn't put an application into that.
I didn't apply for that.
And then a few days later, I'm in front of them, just like we are now, yeah. And I'm doing an interview, and then I get invited down, and I earned the job.
Nice.
So it taught me that I am in the right space, I'm in the right position, and I'm just doing the same things that I did before, just on a smaller scale. But I would say there's actually more of a need here, because the energy was kind of low and the morale was low, and I can surely say that is changing.
Good.
Yes.
So what does it truly mean to be a teaching and a learning superintendent? How does that work out for you?
Teaching and learning superintendent is not forgetting your purpose.
Okay.
I talk so many superintendents, so many principals at times, so many APs.
Right.
They become those positions because they can't teach well. If you will. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that as a former one.
Right.
And obviously some really, most can.
Okay.
Um, but I call myself the teaching and learning superintendent because that needs to be at the forefront of all the things we do. This job is extremely political,
Okay.
and politics is what ruins the landscapes of education. I always say that I'm a teacher first.
Okay.
So remember, I told you in the beginning of the interview, I was excited. I was pumped up because I just left teaching my APs about some rigor relevance, relationships, and what is the rigor relevance and engagement
Okay.
rubrics. And we were just having a good time talking about how we can provide quality feedback for teachers so that student outcomes can improve. And I just love doing that. And I make sure that I'm there to lead them every single month. Because if they're not being led with teaching and learning at the forefront,
Right.
why are we here?
Why are we here? Right.
Why are
Exactly.
we here? And it just helps remind me that teaching and learning is why we are here.
Nice.
Hmm.
I hear that you guys are having, and I was going to bring this up too, that you're doing a celebration for the teachers soon. Like you're going to acknowledge the teachers. How does that whole system work? How does that work?
So every month, in the beginning of the year, I wanted to again boost morale. I'm gonna have probably different ideas next year because with everything comes a little bit of drama, and I don't want to start the drama. I just want to honor people. But basically, every single month, I picked whether like a certain group of people, whether it be staff members, students, to honor. So during September, October, it was Hispanic Heritage Month. So we
Right.
picked, students that exhibit these qualities, and I gave them a nice award in their face with the picture, but they still feel great. Um, one month I honored support staff, and they either were nominated by their peers or their staffs, or nominated by their school leaders. The same thing is going to happen for the teachers.
Okay.
Nominate somebody that I can go ahead and give an award to, and their faces will be on our website. And they need to know that they are appreciated.
Okay.
Every every area of this district needs to know that they are appreciated in some way, shape, or form. And I'm just providing the forum and the opportunity to do that. So either their principal will select them or their staff will select them for the remarkable work that they do. And I'll just honor them and get a cake and then call it a day. Be on our very
Nice.
way. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. How does outside of and I'm big on community.
Yes.
How do we get without the teacher saying, "Hey, I got this reward," or there's an end of or middle of the year gala for teachers? How do we get that information out into the parents, right?
Yeah.
Because
So most,
I would love to know. Mrs. Johnson has an award at the gala that was for the district, and she won this, and she teaches my child. I would love to know that. Like,
yeah.
how do we push that out to the community?
Well, most times we advertise it on our website,
Okay.
and actually tomorrow is the Edith Kaplan Awards Gala or scholarship gala, where we're about to dress to the nines, and uh, each school had selected someone to honor
Okay.
them. That is now a pop up on our screen, asking, showing who we're honoring
Nice.
and offering ways to get tickets. So we're always putting those things out there.
Okay.
When we honored the teachers, they're the ones, they tell their students. Some of the students show up. You know what I mean? They just do that. Some of the parents, they'll show up and say, "This is the best teacher ever. So I wanted to be here." The principals, they show up.
Nice.
That it just happens, but most of it is through our website and
Okay.
those important events. We always put it as pop-ups.
All right. So let's go back to what I talked about earlier of the parent that, lack of a better term, has doesn't have a traditional 9 to 5. They're always working, you know, hit and miss with the kid because they life is lifing at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yes.
How do we turn around and get that type of information to them as well? Like, is there because, like I said, when I was in the laundromat a couple of weeks ago, and a young lady just said, "There's nothing for my kid to do," and I told her, "Say, you know, you need to go to the youth bureau or go on the website." She didn't know it existed, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get that information to let them know, hey, this exists. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
These are the people who touch your kid every day, and this is the impact that we're showing them. We want you to help do the same thing.
I'm going to be honest. I would say that's where the gap is.
Okay.
How do we meet or reach all of our families?
Right.
But one of the things I've committed to is every month I meet with the parent-teacher associations. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm going to actually broach that with them at the next meeting.
Okay.
Because it is an area where, you know, it's hard to improve, but we have to improve in some way.
Right.
So yeah, with that being said, I really don't have much to offer other than, you know, parents still look in the book bag when you get home, if you can, for 5 seconds, just once a week, and see if there's any papers in there that the principals or the teachers have sent home that offer some assistance or programs. You know, when they were cutting food stamps and SNAP benefits, we put on our website, you know, ways to get SNAP. We gave them flyers. We have newsletters.
Okay.
You know, on how do you get help if you have food insecurities. So we try to meet all those different types of needs, almost as like a community school district. But we have a long way to go, and many urban Black and brown districts have those scenarios.
Right.
And those are the barriers. That's where the hard work is.
And that's exactly and the reason why I'm saying that is another scenario for you. The kids that the teachers I was talking to in the subways, they also brought up how parents teachers conferences, right? We wouldn't show up, and I meant we wouldn't show up, right?
Yeah.
My kids grew up in the New Rochelle school district. The first time there was a parents teachers conference, the parents teachers conference is 7:00. I decided to get there at 7:30 because I'm cool. I had to walk 3 blocks away to get there because people were getting there at 6:30, 6:45 for a 7:00 meeting.
Oh,
so
yeah.
And when you see the number of parents that were there, it's a different mindset, right? Of how we're doing things. So I like your idea of let's get rid of, you know, let's two things can be true at the same time. Let's get rid of parent teachers conferences and begin to have parent teachers engagement. All right. So we can move that clock forward as well. So what I'm trying to say is, being that we have again, Black and brown people have a certain way of living and things that we can't make all of these things. So we miss out on this type of information. Right. So I'm just trying to figure out another way to say, hey, let's do this. And what just popped in my head is, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, and it just came to me. Have you engaged churches? Because we have major churches here in Mount Vernon to say, hey, we want you to be a part of the gala. Put this on your bulletin, right? At my church, we scroll what's going on, you know, for the church, for the community councils and stuff going on. That would be a great thing to have as a bulletin, right?
Yes.
At you know, especially Macedonia, since it's so big, and Grace, they scroll the bulletin. Hey, we're doing a gala,
Yeah.
School, that also infuses the community, because a lot of people from the community are going to these churches. So just an idea to help you forward what you're thinking.
No, that's a great idea. So to your first portion of the question, I would say just an FYI. I mean, I told you I led a receivership school on the
Right.
east side of Buffalo. That is where that mass shooting happened, near
Wow.
the tops. And my parent-teachers conferences were always filled because I butted it up against something fun.
Right. Okay.
You're gonna hear about little Susie's performance first, and then you're gonna walk to her teacher's classroom and hear about her progress.
Right.
You have to be innovative like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Give them a reason to come. Parents come out for sports games. They find a way.
Right. Find a way.
So you got to be creative and do stuff like that to get families out. In particular, Black and brown peoples. And what it is it's not that Black and brown parents don't care. It's that many times their experiences in these institutions have been traumatic as well.
Yep.
And they don't want to relive it.
Right.
So we have to do a better job at getting them to trust that we are doing whatever it takes for their children. And then parents have to meet us,
absolutely. Parents have to show up.
They really do. So that's that. I met with a whole bunch of stakeholders in the beginning of the year. I did meet with the United Black Clergy, a fantastic meeting. I met with Reverend Morton. I met with Bishop Edwards. I met with Reverend Richardson, Dr. Richardson, and just to tell them that I am a partner in this work. You know what I mean? I'm a man of faith.
Right.
Even though sometimes I'm like, Jesus, forgive these things. Because it could be some of them days.
Yeah.
But actually, believe it or not, I've been in big time contact with Bishop Edwards, primarily because he has actually one of our community-based organizations, universal pre-K programs at his school. Okay. So it's just good for me to keep, the pulse on what's going on there.
Right.
This Sunday, I did a church marathon. I would have thought it was back in 1980 when all of those, them church groups would have you in there all day.
Right.
I went to Centennial and had a fantastic time.
Okay.
Just the word was good. I was not there as a superintendent. I was there to get the word.
Nice.
People forget about that.
Yeah.
And come say a few words. I'm like, oh God, I didn't have something prepared. And then I got out in an early enough time where I went to Grace and got there, and then finished off at Friendship Worship Center for Bishop Edwards' pastoral anniversary. And my hope is to continue to cultivate relationships with the faith-based organizations.
Right.
I was amazed at how packed they were. I was like,
absolutely. Yes.
And I am going to be doing a Let's Talk budget at Centennial.
Nice.
First of all, it's hitting more south because generally we just do the middle and the north side. No, I need to go to the south, which, when I think about the south, I think about a school I used to lead.
Okay.
Had the negative spirit to it.
Right,
and then when I left, we had wait lists at certain grade levels.
Nice.
Nice. So I do believe more could happen.
Okay.
I do think that I need to develop more of a cadence. But the only unfortunate thing is I've been tied up so much internally.
Right.
That it's been hard to do the external.
Okay.
Because there's so much work that has to be done inside.
Absolutely.
But I definitely do plan to be more of a partner with our non-governmental agencies and our faith-based organizations.
All right, cool. We're going to do a little shift.
Sure.
Because right now we've been talking about, the rosy part of it, making people happy, picking things out.
Yes.
Let's talk about the pressures of your job.
Ooh.
There's pressures with your job, right? There's decisions, there's sacrifices, there are schools that might need to be closed, there are things that impact families that you have to deal with. Let's talk about those things.
Sure. I have pressures every day.
Right.
No joke. I find out 10 to 15 things that are wrong in a day.
Wow.
However, Dr. Cash, who was my superintendent in Buffalo, New York, when I was a principal, he always told me about this one thing. I said, I remember it all the time. He said, no more than 5 slides. Because if you got more than 5 slides, you ain't getting your point across.
Right.
I still haven't mastered that yet. But he gave me some later words, because now he's actually writing an article. He's produced over 15 superintendents in New York State.
Wow.
Honestly, and we're scattered all throughout the state. A few of them starting to drop because they retirement age.
Okay.
But he told me, if you have more than 5 priorities, then what are you doing?
Okay.
So to be honest, Mr. Watts, some things get missed.
Yeah.
But if you even look on my wall, I have 5 priorities, and I said there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the 5 things I'm getting done by the end of this week.
Okay.
Some things are just going to have to wait.
Right.
Because you can't fix it all.
Yeah, you can't.
My board has been fantastic. In the beginning, it was starting to be a lot, all these text messages and calling me, and I'm like, y'all, I don't know. I'm just letting y'all know I'm actually working. Like, I gotta work. Like, telling me about all these problems, and I can't do the work. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm working. So my board has been really fantastic in respecting the fact that I'm working.
Okay.
And they know that I'm working and trying to make it better. I communicate with them every week by letter to let them know what's going on. I'm very transparent. I'm not a good liar. I cannot. I can't lie, because then I forgot about the lie, and then it's just not doing. So I tell the truth. When I find something wrong, I bring it up right away. You know why? Because you ain't blaming me for this.
Right.
This is what really happened. And if I did do something, I would tell the truth and say, I need support. I messed up. So those are hard pressures. Then you have the host of litigation. Everybody in the United States is looking for a case. And that becomes hard.
Okay.
Because generally, you have the best interests of children or the staff at heart, but then it becomes difficult when you're always being told you might be sued.
Wow.
And that's a reality of all of us superintendents. There's so many more. Mount Vernon, we've been in fiscal distress. It seems like once a week I'm hit with a bill from last year, the year before that, of something that was unpaid. And just trying to explain, people say, well, we closed 3 schools. And I'm like, yeah. And where's the savings from that? I'm like, it's paying them bills that wasn't paid years ago.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask that question.
It's just so difficult to try to change the narrative, because people just, they always have their minds made up. This is that place.
Right.
So yeah, those are the things hard when you can't buy things for children. Like, I went into a classroom and did not see a biology textbook.
Wow.
That bothered me so bad. Those are the things that make me go crazy.
Yeah, it has to. There has to be a lot of pressure. And I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad because right now I want to talk about the grit, the grind, the things that people really don't talk about as we begin to wrap this up. Um, Mount Vernon closed 3 schools. Where's the money going? Blah 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 blah. And you gave a great answer that you're paying bills that you had nothing to do with. Like there are things that have to happen, right? Um, and that's the part that people really don't talk about because we have these little silos and echo chambers
Yeah.
of this person's stealing money, this is happening, but not being able to look at the real core of the issue to move forward, not to move backwards, right? We
Yes.
know that happened. We,
Yes.
we understand that happened. So
But it
let's move
is.
forward. And how do we do that,
It
right?
is. Yes.
And how do you I'm gonna do this for you. How do you faithfully continue to move forward without losing your mind with that type of pressure?
It's so funny because some people will come right out and say, you don't need something, or you don't know, y'all don't need no more money and stuff like that. And I'm like, so you're basically telling me how to do my job. I don't go to the doctor telling the doctor that you did not diagnose me properly.
Right.
Uh, you know what I mean? I don't do that, and people have to do the trust thing. I've told people that firsthand. I am paying bills from years and years ago, and you know what people have told me? No, you're not. It's just like you're like what?
Right. Right.
But those are the people that are just going to be the naysayers anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
I know
know
what
that
you mean.
there's truth to power, and that I have receipts that I can show where a bill has come in, and I've had to take this now savings and dump it here because this bill wasn't paid, or we started didn't even know with a deficit budget. So right away you're underfunded. So what do you need to do? You need to move that money that you would have in potential savings to bring the budget and make it balanced. And all I can do is just keep being transparent, getting out in the community, hosting forums, and telling them. And ultimately, um, and I'm not one to be hopping around. I don't like hopping around. I hate moving. I hate
Right.
packing. I hate moving. I don't even like packing to go on vacation. I hate to be on vacation. Um, I hope that my long-term commitment shows that they can trust me,
Right.
because there is a lot of untrust between the district, the city, the community. Um, but I'm working to restore that with
Okay.
transparency, with
Okay.
telling the truth, with saying this is what it is, with saying where we're not holding up our end of the bargain.
Right.
That must happen as well.
All right. Great. Let me do this because we know we're coming up on time. Um, I have a dream, right? And like I said, I believe in community. Is that we would okay? Let me back up and do this.
Hmm.
When the Black Panther movie came out, the first one, right?
Yeah,
One
great move.
point $1.2 billion. Black and brown community had a hefty amount of that, right? And I was like, that was a weekend. So
Yeah,
imagine if we turned around and said, every 3 months we would go in and put in $40 into a bank for the community, right? Imagine how much money we would be able to bring to go to the classroom that doesn't have that new textbook and
yeah,
have a textbook to
correct.
help the teachers who are going out and buying their own supplies to have their supplies. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Have an independent council or people monitor the money, have open budgets. Hey, this is what we take in. Longfellow is the school that we're donating to this month. These are the needs of Longfellow. We're going to do that there. Next week, next month or next quarter, Lincoln School needs X, Y, Z. Here's where your funding is going to Lincoln School. My mind says that the parents, right? I know, me being a parent, if this was happening in our schools, I would at least want to put up $40 that turns out to help the community and my child, right? Because
Yes.
if we don't look at the community as a whole, because you said something earlier, South Side, the kids are, those kids might be bad. If we're not pouring into them and the kids on the North Side, we are doing our community a disservice, right?
Absolutely.
So something like this, because I told you before, I believe in community. And I think that's the one thing that we're missing across the board. Community, from the teachers, from you to the baby that's going to start school next year, right?
Yes.
We all need to be into one conglomerate and one mindset to make things better. Because I think that helps not only the school system, I think that also begins to help the police.
Agreed.
Right? We bring crime down, and kids have things to do, and that
Yes.
moves it over to the urban, the youth bureau, and we begin to cycle this mentality that we are a unit. Because when like I told you, I grew up here, right?
Mhm.
Mount Vernon, when we might have disagreements in town, but we went to New Rochelle, we went to Yonkers, we went to Greenberg. We were a unit wherever we went. And
Absolutely.
my mindset is to see how we can get that to come back. And I think that I'm thinking of ways to support you and what you're trying to do, as far as bring the community together and say, hey, we need to do some things that are kind of broad scale. Like let's let you do your government part of the job, and then have a community of people who do the other things. All right.
Can I say something, Mr. Watts?
Yes, sir.
Fortunately, early in my tenure, I got to experience Mount Vernon doing something together.
Nice.
And that's when I had to make a tough decision to open a home school for the fire victims on Cottage.
Right.
I know the visions, because you hear about it, you read about it, you know who kind of don't rock with who. You already know.
Right.
I know that all of the Mount Vernonites stepped up in
Yep.
some way
In
to
a big
support.
way. A big way. A
Exactly.
big way.
So if we can have that spirit continue all the time, don't you know how powerful this community would be?
Well, we're on the same page. Absolutely. We're on the same page. I'm right
Yep,
there.
that's what I want. That's what
I'm
I
right
want.
there. I am right there. I am
Yep,
right there.
it can be.
Listen, young man, this has been an amazing conversation. We didn't get through a third of the questions I had for you. So
I'll come back. Let me
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. We'll do it again. We'll get on your calendar again. But I have a question for you. I
Sure,
have two questions for you.
absolutely.
One question is, if your younger self was to walk into one of the Mount Vernon schools today, would they feel safe, seen, and inspired?
Absolutely. Um, absolutely. I would say what I've seen here, almost every single teacher is teaching, students are learning, principals know the babies' names. I like to call them babies.
Nice.
Um, and this is from the bottom all the way up,
Good.
even at the high school. And they are fantastic children. And that's all I can say.
Nice. Nice. So my last question for you,
Hmm.
is more of a thought process for you. I need you to go back in your time machine.
Okay.
Um, Tell me a time when you were young. I want you to tell me the smell, the experience of the first thing that pops into your head when you were a child.
Probably some collard greens. because I was in grandma's house. You know what I mean? We just eating good, like
Right,
cornbread, macaroni and cheese. You know, ham, turkey.
right.
Like you know what I mean? That's when we used to eat good. Now I can't even get a meal made. You know? Yeah, but, it definitely is like my grandma's house. You
Okay,
know, it still has that smell. You know what I mean?
right.
And it it's a great reminder just to how far I've come and how all of their prayers, their thoughts have pushed me to where I am now.
Nice,
Continue to push. They
nice.
continue to push me.
Good, good, good. So, young man, again, I thank you for your time. Let me let you get back to doing the things
Yeah,
that you
I'm doing
do.
part two of the AP, so I'm so happy. Like I'm happy.
Good, good.
Uh,
And like I said, I will double back to talk to you. I will be seeing you around.
Absolutely.
I am here in Mount Vernon. So,
Love it.
again, I appreciate you. Triumphant TV, I told you what we always do. We bring out the brightest, the best, and excuse me, in the district, in the world. We will continue to grow. We will continue to bring you information that you will need to continue to grow your community. Because if we're not in a community standpoint, we're divided. And that's the one thing everybody wants us to be is divided. And we will not be that here. So signing off, and we will talk to you later.